Hi, I'm Matthew Sadler.
And I'm WIM Natasha Regan. The game today has an element of surprise. It arises from a modern defence and it's from Tcec 18, the Superfinal between Stockfish and Leela. And in today's game, Stockfish is white and Leela is black. In this game, Leela avoids a line where it would give up a queen for 3 pieces because it prefers the pieces. And instead, we get into a position where black has the bishop pair and white has a pair of knights. And really, it looks like it's a very equal position. Leela's pawn structure is quite compact, and it does allow the white knight, Stockfish's knights, to come in on the squares where there have been pawn exchanges. Stockfish gives up a pawn for some pressure, although that looks like that's what all it is. But Leela plays an incautious move, and suddenly Stockfish conjures up a lightning attack, and Leela has to give up material just in order to survive. And Stockfish, in its usual style, manages to convert with its very active queen.
Yeah, it's a really fantastic game, this one, and I think very typical of probably the what made the difference between Stockfish and Leela in this match. So let's have a look at the game. So this was the Tcec opening position. I'll just wheel back through the moves just to so you can see how it arose. So that was e4, g6, d4, bishop g7, knight c3, d6, bishop c4, knight f6, queen e2. A quite unusual system that's was quite popular at one stage. There's a grandmaster called Kvenis who plays this still quite a lot, I think. Knight c6, attacking the pawn on d4, which the white queen has weakened. But this is the main idea of white's plan: is to play e5. And this is where the Tcec book stopped tantalisingly, giving the engines a chance to to make a judgment on the following line, which is knight takes d4, attacking the queen, e takes f6, knight takes e2, f takes g7, attacking the rook on g8, on h8 rather, rook g8, knight e2, and rook g7. And as black, Stockfish chose to go in for this line with a queen and 2 pawns for the 3 pieces. And this is actually a trend that is something that I think anyone who worked with Stockfish a lot knows, that Stockfish really does always likes will always take the queen above pieces. And we saw that in Superfinal 17 actually as well. And we also saw it in a game that we looked at, I think the last video we did on game 65, a stunning Leela victory where it sacrificed queen for 2 pieces. And won, and Stockfish probably didn't miss it completely, but misevaluated it rather severely. And in this position as well, Leela managed to gradually encroach on the black position, very, very cautiously, very, very quietly, baby steps all the way, but without allowing black any counterplay. Just came further and further forwards, and eventually opened up the position. So that was a pretty impressive Leela win. But I wanted to show you actually the other game, the game that Stockfish won, because I think that's probably even more typical for what was happening in the super final, and probably the kind of one of the main reasons why Stockfish won the super final this time. So Leela played quite conservatively with knight g4, but it's probably a better move, I think. Bishop b5, a slightly strange move from white. You're moving the bishop twice. On the other hand, what you're claiming is that, black's going to have moved his knight 3 times. That's knight going to go back to h6. So black's wasting time as well. You might wonder what happens after e5 to e6, which looks very, very sharp. Black's been pretty successful with this line. Knight takes d4, queen g4, knight c2 check. You could even throw in f5 here, but black's also just played knight a1, takes. Looks a little bit dangerous for black, but black's actually just going to play c6 and d5. block off this bishop, play e5. And, well, white's not going to find it completely easy to get that knight on a1. It's going to cost white quite a bit of time. Black's been very successful in these types of positions. So white has been playing the more restrained and more sensible bishop b5, and then takes, h3, chasing the knight back, and knight f3. And a pretty interesting position. I mean, black's kind of pushed back onto the back three ranks, and has got a damaged pawn structure. On the other hand, black's got the two bishops. Some light squares, around the white centre have been freed, so that gives black some outposts for its pieces. In general, I would be very, very happy with black if I got this position.
Yeah, you'd kind of think as the game develops, then black would just kind of open up the position and the bishops will become more powerful. And it doesn't look like white's going to come in and attack.
No.
At the moment.
No, that's right. I mean, it doesn't feel like white's got an ideal attacking structure here. Leela played a very interesting move. I mean, black players have played c5 a lot, takes here as a sort of a pawn sacrifice. Just trying to open up lines, which is not, again, very, very thematic, I think. My engines tended to prefer white after here, takes, d takes e5, takes, and castles. Which you can sort of understand, really, because white's got some nice queenside squares to invade, queen c6, knight b5 maybe, together with rook d1. Black's doesn't really have any kingside attacking chances, and the bishop's a little bit restricted by the pawn on e5. So I would have thought that this was probably a slight edge for white. At any rate, white's got decent chances of making something of this. But I don't think there's any need to rush with the move c5. And Leela played a very interesting move here, which is queen d7. The purpose is not at all obvious, but it's actually to play f6 and knight f7 without allowing white to play the move e5 to e6. And that's a pretty nice idea. Just attacking the white centre and giving white some difficult decisions about what to do. Is he going to try and maintain this pawn, or is he going to just exchange? And now an astonishing decision, really, from Stockfish, but actually it's also the recommendation of the NNs as well. So I'm worried that this is something about my chess understanding that's wrong. But played a move that I think I would never ever play, and I'd tell off a beginner if he played it. Bishop takes h6 was played. It just feels so strange, giving up a bishop for a knight, giving black the two bishops against two knights, and also exchanging off a piece that still hasn't quite found its spot yet. And here it was potentially a black piece. The knight on h6 was potentially a piece that might get into trouble. You might think, well, somehow I might be able to exploit it. So just to give that up just like that is amazing to me. Especially,
if that knight tried to move into f5, say, then it's not immediately threatening that pawn on d4 or threatening to go anywhere.
Yeah, so you could even play g4 and gain he'd probably gain a piece actually, because knight h6 says queen e3. So it's black has to make extra moves in order to deal with it. I mean, this move f6 is a good start, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just it's.
Do you think it's a mistake to take that?
I don't know, really. I mean, you've got three superhuman engines, against you, really. So yeah, but I mean, essentially, what you're always worried about is that for the moment it looks fine for white, but there's no targets really in the black position, and black's just gradually going to have time to to start moving its pawns forwards, its pieces forwards, and at some stage you'll just end up with nothing with a knight. It's I find it I mean, I really do in principle I don't really understand the decision, put it that way, but It works out. It works out very well. Of course, the thing is for Stockfish is that even if it ends up a bit worse, if it doesn't get anything from the opening, it'll defend that very easily for hundreds of moves. So from that point of view, it doesn't have the worry that I'd have of if I don't play it really well from now on, I might just end up getting ground, with no counterplay. So castles. A5 from Leela. Leela starts just expanding gently, typical NN move, just trying to gain a little bit of queenside space. And Stockfish just plays very, very centrally. Queen goes to E4, rook goes to D1. Just all the pieces in the centre, and no worries. Rook A5 from Leela, I think, is quite a nice move. The rook's restricting the knight on F3. So because it's attacking the pawn on E5, and black's also looking to play C6 to C5, opening up the diagonal of the bishop on C8. So it's quite a nice move actually. Stockfish plays B3 here, and now another decision that shocked me a little. C takes B3. Just in general, I always find, or my assumption always is that if you're playing with two knights against two bishops, you should be trying to keep your position compact. Because obviously the more spread out it is, the more chance that gives to the bishops, to attack. They're very good at that. So I was really expecting A takes B3 in this position, which just keeps the position together and keeps the structure together. C takes B3 though is it's a lot more aggressive. The C file is half opened against these pawns. You've got a passed A pawn.
Yeah.
It's obviously, the point is Stockfish doesn't have these, these long-term worries that I have about, is this all going to work out fine? It just thinks this is, it knows that it's not going to fail in the tactics. Here Leela played, I suppose, a risky move, but a very thematic move. So I don't think you can criticise it at all. He played C5 and making, creative use of this rook on A5. And of course, in principle, it's what black wants. Open up the position for the bishops, let them, flow freely. What actually happens is that you could say that Leela actually ends up opening the position for white's knights, because when those central pawns get exchanged, Stockfish's knights take up the positions of the pawns. Bizarrely enough, it's the knights that end up more active than the bishops. So knight d5 is the start of it, and I do have to say I was starting to get a little bit nervous for Leela when this happened, because as soon as the position opens up and Stockfish has got active pieces, there's always huge danger, from that point of view. But in principle, the position is still completely equal. Both engines were assessing around 0 here, and I think that's absolutely correct. So C takes D4, knight takes D4. Well, and now Leela grabs that pawn on A2. Why not?
So there's another thing about the decision of taking with the C pawn.
Exactly.
Taking with the A pawn, that pawn wouldn't be there.
Exactly. It's this kind of luring. You sort of feel luring Leela to take it, really. But
it's all a big trap.
It's all a big trap, but it's still fine. Black's still absolutely fine here. But all of a sudden, you're going to need to do a little bit of good defence. This move, Queen H4, is the start of some vague threats against the king. White's if black doesn't do anything, white will play Rook E7 and then Knight F6 check, which is not maybe not killing straight away, but definitely dangerous. By the way, if black didn't do anything at all, let me find a move like there, then Rook E7, Queen D8, and Knight C6 would trap the queen. So as always, there's always some danger like this in the position. So Leela played a good move, I think, when Queen D8, just covering this square on F6. And this is actually a kind of a divergence, really, because when I let my home fish, so Stockfish running on my home machine, analyse for quite a while, it was preferring the move Queen D8, actually. Takes Knight C6, and then B4, and then eventually taking the loose pawn on C7, which was fine, but it didn't lead to any particular advantage. But the Tcec monster found a very interesting, very creative way of getting its pieces into play. And it played the move Knight E7 check, King H8. It doesn't look like like anything in particular, but then this great maneuver, knight c6 and knight b4. So hitting the rook on a2, the rook comes all the way back to a8, and then we get this move knight d5. And yeah, I mean, I just replay those last few moves for you, because you just see the amount of work that Stockfish has done with its knights in the space of 4 or 5 moves here. And you know, they're going from d5 to d4 to e7 and d5. And of course, what is the big white threat? Well, you know, if black plays some sort of silly move, then knight f6 is just huge, threatening mate on h7, and if bishop f6, then queen f6 is mate now, because the knight is so strong on e7. So yeah, some danger here, but Leela defends properly here. Plays the move queen d8, just getting out of the way.
The Indians are still thinking this is quite equal.
Absolutely, still on 0 here. So the idea is if knight f6, we can simply go h6 here. And you've got to watch out. If you go rook d3, which is an idea that happened later in the game, then black's got this this idea. I think it works here as well. Rook a1 takes and queen e7. And suddenly, well, the knights are in danger because, well, one's gone already, and this knight on f6 is pinned to the queen on h4. And rook f3, I'll go bishop f5. So when f6 hangs as well. So got to watch out for that. And actually here Stockfish doesn't find any clear way through. So it does just play something incredibly clever. Plays this move b4. And that's alternating play on the queen side and king side, basically, because apart from you know, any vague threats against the king, white could also just play a move like rook c1 and line up on the c pawn, you know, and grab it back, grab the material back, and maybe have some chances with the passed b pawn. So this move b4 is yeah, clamping down on the c pawn, maybe getting ready to play b5, clamp down even further. And here, this is the crucial moment, and unfortunately, Leela ends up playing one of the worst moves on the board, I'm afraid. I mean, when I was you know, looking at it during the, I think I was looking at it during the game, and the natural move to me seemed to be to play bishop b7. You know, just trying to get rid of that knight on d5. So white probably plays, well, white can play if white plays knight f6. h6, then g4 is something you've definitely got to take into consideration. Just threatening g5, and then if h5, then knight takes h5. I mean, it's just mating. But what I wanted to do was to play d5, and after g5, I was actually looking at rook a6 here, but my engine was less impressed with that. Queen d6 was another idea that I'd thought of. And the cunning point is that if g takes, we've just got bishop takes f6, just sidestepping this attack, and black's just winning. So what did my engine say? I think my engine said knight takes, rook takes, queen c6 here. Still holding on to the knight, so if g takes, bishop f6. And I think that my engine wanted a draw by repetition here, after here and here. You know, so one of those typical ways that the engines, you know, just sort of always find the way to repetition. But I think it's, you know, it's fair enough. I mean, this was, you know, one decent plan. I think that what else was possible? I think c6 was one of the was Stockfish's main line during the event. Queen f4, d5, rook c1, and you can play g4, h4. Still, you know, lots of pressure for white in this line, but apparently still for white still level. In my engine games. There was rook a3, which you'll understand why this was decent later. Also, even I think rook a2 was possible tactically. You know, there's a lot of lines that are fine, but unfortunately, there's 2 really bad moves in this position. One obviously bad, which is bishop e6, because we play knight f6 threatening mate takes, and rook takes e6.
Rook takes e6.
Exactly, and remember this.
Takes the knight g6.
Mate.
Checkmate.
Yeah, remember this mating pattern. It's it's a very important one. So that's a really bad move. Unfortunately, Leela's move seems to be not that far off, although the refutation is immeasurably more complex. I mean, rook a4, it's a little bit of an odd move, really. I guess because, you know, you always try when you play your pieces to spots, you try and make it multi-purpose. And so, you know, you want a rook to be active laterally as well as horizontally. You know, I mean, you want pieces to do multiple things. And this rook on here, the only thing it does is attack the pawn on b4, which is not really a very big role for such a powerful piece. Unfortunately, it's also got a number of tactical problems, and that's the main one is that it weakens the black's defense of the 8th rank, which becomes crucial after Stockfish's next move, rook d3. And it's one of those moments that you got a few times during the match, certainly, where Stockfish suddenly jumps to +5. You think, what? You know, what happened? This last move was a bit weird from Leela, but +5 all of a sudden. But it's absolutely true.
It's not obvious at all.
No. So what is the reason? Well, I'll show you the game continuation first of all, because that's the main point. And then afterwards, I'll show you some of the other variations, some of the other points to the line. So Leela played c6, which is a very natural move, chasing away the knight from d5. Actually, knight f6 was also quite strong in this position, but Stockfish had this glorious move, rook f3, c takes d5, and then rook f7. So what is black able to do here? Well, the point is, if rook f7, then knight g6 check.
I'm covering an attack on that queen.
And
d8.
queen takes d8 is going to happen. A move like bishop f5 covering g6 is possible, but White's got this great idea: rook takes, knight f5 check, takes, and then rook e7. And the huge problem for black is that he can't go rook f7 because takes, queen d8 wins the queen, and you're going to rue having the rook on a4 rather than a8. You know, it would have been better almost if you'd passed, you know, this and left the rook on a8, then this combination would not work. Leela found that...
You get the pawn at the end.
Yes, well, indeed. Leela played a clever intermediate move, which was g5. And the idea is it takes, knight, rook f7 you can play now. And if knight g6, then you've got h takes g6. Queen d8, rook f8. Well, king h7 is what Leela played, but rook f8, you think, well, there we are. You know, rook and 2 bishops to the queen, what can be wrong with that? But here White's got this move, rook e8, and again, you see how terrible it is that this rook on a4 has been played here, rather than on a8, because there's no way for black to defend all of his 8th rank pieces. And yeah, after rook e8, I just go queen e8. And
forking the rook and the king.
Exactly, and that's well, that's gone. I mean, just I think this is actually correct. I'm just improvising now, but if black had played rook a2, which was another move that my engines played in my engine games, then this whole idea I think doesn't quite work anymore, because you go c6, rook f3, c takes d5, rook f7, g5, queen g5, rook f7, knight g6 check, all of these lovely moves, takes, rook f8, rook e8. And here I think you can play rook f2. You know, that rook on a2, it's multi-purpose. You know, that's what we're saying. You know, it's... and if White plays... so if rook f8, then we've got rook f8. And if queen c8, then we've got rook f1 check, king h2, and bishop e5 check. And, well, rook takes e5 allows rook c8. And g3. Unfortunately, it's not mate, but you do get rook f2 with a perpetual. So, you know, there's just so many moves for black that somehow made this impossible. But Leela just chose really completely the wrong one there with rook a4. It's quite amazing, really. So what were the other moves? We've looked at c6. I think my very favourite move is bishop f5. White plays rook f3. And then there's several variations, but I think the nicest one to show is what if black plays c5. It's kind of the idea of rook a4. Then we go rook f5, gf, knight f6, threatening mate. On h7, obviously bishop f6, queen f6 is mate, as we said before. But after h6, you've got this gloriously quiet move, queen h5. After black plays something like rook b4, then wait for it. What does...
Very nice. Queen to g6.
Exactly. So queen g6 threatens queen h7 mate, and if you take it, we've got our standard double knight mate with knight g6. If black plays bishop f6, then queen h6 check is mate. So those were, yeah, that was a very nice line there. Really very nice indeed. So yeah, after rook d3, white is basically winning, which is well, rather shocking. So the game proceeded as we showed. Queen g5 takes, and here Leela gave up the bishop. So in principle, a winning advantage for white. Queen against rook and bishop. There's still got a pawn there, and the obviously the black pawns are rather shattered. But still,
not completely straightforward.
No, it's not.
You'd find this difficult in a game.
Yeah, I mean, you always think in a blitz finish. You think, oh, there could still be some worries here. Bishop d4 is the idea, attacking pawn f2. Queen e8 played by Stockfish. Again, as you'll see, I mean, Stockfish's handling of the queen in open positions is astonishing. I mean, I think that's why it has that slight blind spot, really, with queen against pieces. It handles the queen so well, it feels it can do pretty much anything. So rook a7, rook f1, bishop f2 check. Now, if rook f2, I'll go rook a1 check and pick up the rook. So that's not desirable. But king h1, d4 marching, queen e6. Yeah, somehow Stockfish always manages to get its queen maximum activity, inconveniencing the black positions, and ready to deal with anything that black throws at it. For example, I think d3, we can just go queen d5 here. The d pawn is hanging, and the bishop can't move because the rook and the queen are combining against f7. Yeah, these moves don't look like much, but they're just, they're always incredible coordination. So rook f4, queen c4, again stopping the pawn, pinning the rook. Rook a3. So Leela's trying to somehow organize the exchange of rooks, actually, and also maybe try and force the advance of this d pawn, but it's not going to be easy. Rook c3, queen b4, bishop g3. Rook b1, so not acquiescing to the exchange of rooks, of course, because that would be mate. So just rook b1, rook c2. So Leela looking to play rook f2 and then rook f1, and then this lovely move queen a3, just knocking the black attacking structure by attacking the bishop on g3. Leela has to go back to c3, and now Stockfish can make some more progress. I mean, it's very, very hard for a human to keep this up, this level of accuracy over a long period of time, but for Stockfish, of course, is child's play. I think it was a plus 12 already. It knew this was already winning. So rook e4, b7, rook e3. Finally, Leela makes a mate threat on e1. But here we go queen a5, and, well, this is obviously, if rook e1, we just take with the queen, and then we queen our pawn on b8 here. So, what is Leela going to do? Rook e8 covers the b8 square. I mean, I imagine that b8 queen is. I would have thought that would be winning even then. Rook e1, queen takes e1, bishop takes e1, bishop takes e1. That looks like it should be winning, but That might be the human thing to do, but Stockfish doesn't worry about that. It sees that this is winning in other ways as well. Rook f1, rook e2, queen b4. So Stockfish is now just going to try and pick up a couple of d pawns. That's the basic idea. d3, queen b3, and obviously the pawn on d3 is pinned to the bishop on e3. So Leela decides to swap off rooks, and queen takes f1. Obviously rook e1, we just take it. But now how is white... Exactly, but how is white going to get itself free? Because it's not easy at all to get rid of this bishop on g3. What Stockfish does is...
That's a typical Leela bishop, isn't it?
Yeah, no, exactly. You know, it's...
g3 sort of restricting the king.
Exactly, I mean, it's a very... in principle, Black's doing a great job, you know, of getting counterplay. You know, I mean, you can't really ask for much more from Black, but simply, you know, Stockfish is calculating its way through. This move h4, queen a1, pinning the pawn to the king on g7. The king moves away. Queen a5, stopping rook e1 check, and also threatening queen g5 check, picking up the bishop on g3. It's just incredible geometry, simply. You know, I mean, yeah, I mean, human players can do this a little bit, but to do this at such a level over so many moves is, I think, is beyond anyone. h5, and this is the key thing for Stockfish, opening up the black king, and now there's going to be masses of checks, and well, Stockfish with a queen and lots of checks, it's going to do incredible things. King h6 takes, queen b4. So now what is Stockfish's key idea here? Essentially, it wants to get its queen over to the g file. That's the basic idea, and then it's going to be able to, with check, and then be able to maybe sacrifice the queen for the bishop. And if the black rook takes it, then white queens. You know, that's going to be the basic idea, and you'll see how Stockfish does it. Loads of consecutive checks. Now already there's a slight problem for Black here. If we go to g7, queen g5 check arrives. And if we go to g6, then we've got queen c6 check, forking king and rook, king f7 only move to defend, and then queen f3 check, winning the bishop on g3. Just great geometry again. So rook e3 is Leela's move. But now, well, Stockfish starts checking, and it's pretty much end of the game. Queen d8 check, queen d5 check. And Black just does not have good squares for its pieces. For example, if you go king g7, I'll go just queen d4 check, for example. So Stockfish went, Leela went king e7, and already we could do the idea I mentioned, which is to go queen g5 check, and then queen takes g3, and then b8 queen, and that would be completely winning. But for Stockfish, that's not quite enough. It wants it even more. Queen c5 check, queen b6 check, check, queen c4 check, king e7, queen b4 check. What's the queen doing here? It's defending e1, so rook e1. Defending e1, so rook e1 can be met by queen e1, and also with check, White's managed to get queen to protect the b8 square, so b8 queen. And here, well, did Leela play? He played bishop h2 check and resigned. So so there we are. That was a really quite stunning tactical interlude. As I said, you know, the opening was, yeah, I guess, you know, not amazingly impressive, you'd say, from Stockfish. You know, just pretty much an equal position. But once the position opened up and there was some element of danger against the king, you know, the play was simply stunning. I mean, I don't think you can't play this better. And especially the idea, I mean, Stockfish saw that it didn't have an immediate attack, so it plays this waiting strengthening move, you know, just exploiting chances on both sides of the board. And then after this very poor move from Leela, suddenly it's over, you know, and you look at the position and say it can't be over, you know. I still got so many pieces, but for Stockfish, it's already calculated towards the end. And yeah, I mean, I think that you know, Leela got somehow over the course of these 100 games, Leela got caught in quite a few of these sudden turnarounds where in an open position, you know, possibilities, vague possibilities of its king being in danger. It just was stumbling into some of these well, very deep tactical refutations, and
It's still surprising how dangerous this is.
amazing. Yeah, I mean, you see the evaluation playing through the game, you see the evaluation jump, you say, what? Come on, have you gone mad? But really, it's just mathematically winning. I think in my engine games, from this position, once you give rook d3, it was all white wins. Just white black was not managing to defend it. So there we are. Hope you enjoyed that game. A great Stockfish game. We are going to look for a few more games from the Superfinal. Of course, Stockfish won with a gap of 8 points, I think.
Yeah, it's really quite a convincing win for Stockfish in this super final.
Yes, no, exactly.
It's like the biggest margin of win for a little while, I think.
Exactly, yeah, no, exactly. It's really played very impressively. I mean, I think tactically, as we saw in this game, it was superb. It also, I think its handling of some openings had improved a great deal, particularly the King's Indian. I mean, it lost a couple of games, but it also played very, very well in a few games with black as well. So it looked, much more like a typical King's Indian player. And somehow, in some of the very ugly Frenches that it got, it managed to hold on. Whereas in season 17, Leela was really putting all of those away, grinding down. Here, Stockfish managed to hold, a few of those, horrible black positions, which makes a difference because, with this sort of tactical vision, Stockfish is always going to win a lot of games, so Leela has to win a lot of games too. The nice thing about it, though, is that just like in season 17, Stockfish I think won a lot of games, but still lost something like 15 as well. So
it was a very, very interesting match, wasn't it? With so many decisive games and such a range of openings as well was really nice.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's really true, and I think a few of these openings that were chosen are quite were very interesting from a theoretical point of view. Just generally, and it's just I think the engine showed some very, very interesting ways of playing them. So, but it's great. I mean, still, you see that Stockfish dominated, but still lost 15 games. So, even at this enormous level, we're still short of perfection in chess. Which is a great thing. Really a great, amazing thing. And I can't wait till the next super final. Apparently, the Stockfish devs are still busy. They still brought out some new ELO gaining patches, so they're still going for it. And I guess the Leela devs. I think the Leela devs have also been busy now. Trying to improve their Leela for next time. So
I guess a really key thing when they're developing is just how to even know that their changes are making sure that it actually improves and the effect of its changes.
Well, that is true. That is very, very true.
And so the kind of testing they do against the previous versions and against other engines.
Exactly. I mean, I think the thing that everyone talks about for Stockfish is fish test, which is a testing framework, which is about which everyone is incredibly has enormous amounts of praise for that. It's praise for that. It's they call it really high level software engineering. And then applied to chess. And just a very good testing framework for making sure that patches are good. And I don't think that the Leela devs really have something like that in place. So yeah, I mean that's I think that's that's obviously one big thing that the Stockfish community has set up. And that's very, very impressive. So we're going to see how it all pans out. But anyway, both sets of devs active, so looking forward to a great match. And I think maybe just in comparison, I mean you see Stockfish winning a match like this, with some distance, and you sort of think you sort of wonder whether Leela was wrong in some way. But there's a match currently taking place as well, which is the CPU Superfinal. So it's Stockfish against the next best CPU-based engine, which is Komodo. Played at a slightly shorter time control, or somewhat shorter time control, but same openings. And I mean, I think the last after about 60 games played, Stockfish was leading 30-1, 30 wins to one. You know, so
Yeah, incredible.
I mean,
Incredible.
astonishing because I can tell you, my impression was that this latest version of Komodo 14 was strong. I really thought it was, it was a strong analysis partner and very solid as well. But I think it just shows, the level at which both engines, Leela and Stockfish, and I think the other two big NNs, Ali Stein and Stoneface, at which they're acting. They're really acting at those four engines are acting at a level that's far above anything else. So yeah, exciting times, but very interesting as a comparison to see that as I said, an AB engine that I consider to be very, very strong, just being really very badly beaten. So there we are. If anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. If you haven't subscribed yet,
It's time to subscribe.
press that red button. And yeah, if you love computer chess, then do take a look at our book, Game Changer. Lots of amazing games from AlphaZero and Stockfish. Basically, where it all started for NNs in chess. And otherwise, keep well, keep safe.
See more discussion of that, like the Leela Bishop you saw today, and also of Stockfish's amazing tactical skill.
Yeah.
There's more examples in Game Changer.
Exactly, loads and loads of that. All of the themes that, or loads of themes that the NNs play, like Leela, then you see back in the games of AlphaZero. But otherwise, yeah, keep well, keep safe, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching.